Everybody, it's Ellen Violette, and it's hot. Whew. So I just decided to leave my hair up today. Today, I'm going to talk about comparisons versus competition, the good and the bad, and how it can help or hurt your business. And I was going to talk about this yesterday, but I just wasn't up to it yesterday, so we're going to talk about it today. So, hi. So comparing is when I think of comparing, I think of, looking at other people and then comparing ourselves to them. And usually it has a connotation that it's not a good one. Okay, that when you're comparing, you're just usually deciding that you're less than other people, or that's what most people do. Okay. It's great if you can compare yourself to other people and go, okay, well, I see they're doing this and I'm on the same track, or, something similar, and I see I'm keeping pace, and that's great, wonderful. But I don't usually run into people who are doing that. Usually they're comparing themselves and deciding that they don't measure up. And that's one of the main things that holds people back, is people feeling like they're not good enough. So I love this quote that I found. The reason we struggle with insecurity is because we compare our behind the scenes with everybody else's highlight reel. And that's from Steve Furtick. So that is one of the things that definitely happens in social media. Hi, Aileen. And that is that, people tend to put their best foot forward and only tell you the good stuff. And it's hard not to. I mean, I did, the most vulnerable video that I've done so far, I did yesterday. And the first thing somebody said was, it took a lot of courage. Sometimes it doesn't feel like courage. Sometimes you just feel like, oh, it's just too much trouble to keep up the front, or to not let people know how I'm feeling today, because it's just, over the top. So that's, that's the deal with comparing. Competition, on the other hand, I tend to think more of as feeling good enough, and feeling like, yeah, I'm in the race and I can do this. And so I think that people don't get into competitions if they don't think they can win. So that's the good thing about competition. But if you're going to compete, then what you have to do is you have to decide, what's a win for you, and not just look at what other people are doing and say, oh, I didn't win because I didn't do what they did. And that's what's so great, like when you see people running marathons, or disabled doing Special Olympics, and people, setting their own goals and then reaching them. And that's really what it's all about. If you're doing better today than you did yesterday, great. If you're learning and growing in your acceptance of yourself, and also, what you can do and what you can't do, or what you're willing to do, or how much energy you have, or whatever it is, if you can live up to what you set out for yourself, given where you are in your life and what you can do, then, that's a good competition. Also, when you do compete with other people, it can make you better because you try harder. So that's another way that competition can really help you. So competition versus, comparisons is really how you use them. If you can use both in a positive way, and ultimately you can use both in a negative and destructive way. And so it's really about mindset. It's really about how are you going to use it. So one of the other things that I wanted to say about comparisons, and this was brought up to me at one point, I was feeling really frustrated when my husband got so sick and almost died. And I was doing a lot for him, and I wasn't getting a lot done in my business. And then I was, comparing myself to what other people were doing. And my partner, Betsy Hall, we do the Authors Profit Mastermind together. And she was saying, look, that person that you're comparing yourself to wasn't doing that last year because they had all this crap going on in their life last year. And now this year their plate's clean and they can do all that. Or, they're 40 and you're 64, so, and you've got all this other stuff going on. So, whatever it is, you just have to look at it again and not compare yourself to others based on where they are and where you are, but where you are versus where you were and where you are versus what's going on in your life and how much you can do. And I found that when I stopped beating myself up about it, a lot more started getting done, because what I started doing was saying, okay, if I can get something done every day, slow and steady wins the race. So that's what I started doing. And then the other thing with comparing yourself is this idea that everybody should, which was one of my least favorite words, should, do it a certain way. So like if you're an expert, you should be, speaking on X number of stages, or you should be traveling this many days a year, or you should be speaking all over the world, or whatever. And it reminded me of John Grisham, because John Grisham is a very successful novelist. He lives in Mississippi, and he totally decided not to play the Hollywood game, and he, lives life on his own terms. And I like to think about him because sometimes I know I can get caught up in, well, this is what this one's doing, that one's what that one's doing, and even getting confused as to, well, do I want to do that, or do I just think that I should do that? And so it's really important to check in with yourself and say, well, what do I want to do? And I think it's really hard for writers. I think it's really hard because we like to write, and write is a solitary thing, and writers are somewhat hermits, at least, when they're writing. So you want to, check in with yourself and really see how much do you want to get out there, and, what do you want to do, and how are you willing to do it, and not really compare yourself to what everyone else is doing. So if you find yourself getting in that space, just think about John Grisham. Okay? So competition, on the other hand, makes you want to strive and do your best. And like for me, with the 21-day video challenge that we're doing right now, I know that I'm not going to do as many videos once this is over. It'll be interesting to see. I will be asking people, how many do you think is good? Because people just don't have time to watch that many, I'm finding out. And I can tell that by how many people are coming on a daily basis, and, which ones and which days are doing the best. So the competition is really, for me, I'm not even seeing it as much of a competition as I'm seeing it as a commitment to myself to do something every day till I see it all the way through. But also, it is a competition, and I did go in and see what other people are doing, and there is a part of me that is competitive. And if you're competitive, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with being competitive. I know competitive has made me do a lot of things that have been good in my life. And also people telling me that I couldn't do it. That's also been a big motivator for me. And I'll end with this little story. So when I was in songwriting, I took a class at UCLA Extension, and I had I guess you usually call him a professor, but he wasn't. He was a legendary songwriter, actually. And he read my lyrics. I think it was at that point. I don't know that I don't think it had music at that point. And he took, he read it, and he said to me, "You're never going to make it as a songwriter because you're too Joni Mitchell-ish." Well, Joni Mitchell is one of my idols, and I did not take that as a negative at all. I took it as a dare, and I went on to get a Grammy nomination because I was going to show him that he was full of it, So competition is good. Also, sometimes people telling you what you can't do is good. So, whatever works for you. Anyway, that's all I have to say for today. Bye-bye. See you tomorrow.